The empty paradise. Captain Elena Vasquez had seen many worlds in her 30 years of service. She had walked on frozen moons where methane fell like rain. She had stood on burning deserts where the sand itself glowed with radiation. She had explored gas giant stations where the pressure could crush a ship in seconds. But she had never seen anything like Kepler 7749c. The planet hung in the viewport like a blue and green jewel. White clouds drifted across its surface. Oceans sparkled under the light of a yellow sun. Mountains rose from vast plains. Rivers cut through valleys that looked like they belonged on Earth itself. "Atmospheric analysis complete," said Lieutenant Park from his station. His voice was filled with wonder. "Oxygen at 21%. Nitrogen at 78%. Trace amounts of carbon dioxide and argon. Captain, this is a perfect match for Earth's atmosphere." Elena leaned forward in her command chair. "Temperature readings?" "Average surface temperature is 17 degrees Celsius. The equatorial regions are warmer. The poles have ice caps. There are seasonal variations consistent with the planet's axial tilt. Water. Freshwater lakes and rivers. Saltwater oceans. The chemical composition is almost identical to Earth's oceans. We could drink from those rivers without any filtration." Elena felt her heart beating faster. In 300 years of human space exploration, they had never found a planet like this. Worlds that could support human life were rare. Worlds that could support human life without any modification were supposed to be impossible. Yet here one was spinning peacefully in front of them. "Life signs?" she asked. This was the question that mattered most. Lieutenant Park was quiet for a long moment. He checked his instruments. He ran the scans again. His face showed confusion. "None, Captain." "None?" "Check again." "I have checked 3 times. There are no life signs. No bacteria. No plants. No animals. No microorganisms of any kind. The planet is completely sterile." Elena stood up and walked to the viewport. She stared at the beautiful world below. Green and blue. Clouds and oceans. It looked alive. It looked like it should be teeming with creatures. But the sensors did not lie. "How is that possible?" she whispered. The landing team touched down on a wide plain near a river delta. The grass beneath their feet was not grass at all. It was a mineral formation that looked like grass from orbit. Green crystals that had grown from the soil in thin blades. Beautiful and strange and completely dead. Dr. Marcus Webb knelt down and touched the crystal grass. He was the ship's chief biologist. He had spent his entire career studying alien life forms. Now he was looking at a world where life had never existed. "This is extraordinary," he said. His voice came through the communication system to everyone on the team. "The conditions here are perfect for life. Better than perfect. This planet should be covered in organisms. Every river should be filled with fish. Every plain should have grazing animals. Every forest should have birds and insects. But there is nothing," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka. She was the geologist. She was already collecting soil samples and running them through her portable analyzer. "The soil is rich in minerals. The water is clean. The sunlight is the right wavelength for photosynthesis. Everything is ready. Everything is waiting. But nothing has ever grown here." Captain Vasquez looked around at the silent landscape. A wind blew across the plain, but it carried no seeds. It carried no pollen. It carried no spores. Just empty air moving over empty ground. "Find out why," she ordered. "I want to know what happened to this world." It took Dr. Tanaka 3 days to find the answer. She worked without sleep, analyzing thousands of samples. She ran simulations on her computer. She consulted with scientists back on the ship. Finally, she called a meeting in the landing camp's main tent. "The planet is poisoned," she said. "Not poison to us. We can breathe the air and drink the water without any problems. But poison to the development of life." She brought up a holographic display showing molecular structures. "There is a compound in the soil. I have named it Tanaka 7 for now. It is harmless to complex organisms like humans. But it is deadly to simple organisms. Bacteria cannot survive in this soil. Single-celled life cannot develop. And without bacteria and single-celled life, complex life can never evolve." Dr. Webb shook his head slowly. "So life never had a chance to begin here. The building blocks were present. The conditions were perfect. But this compound prevented the first step from ever happening." "Exactly. This world has been waiting for 4 billion years. Waiting for something to bring life to its surface. Waiting for something to break the cycle and allow growth to begin." Captain Vasquez felt a strange sensation in her chest. It was sadness mixed with something else. Something like hope. Can we fix it? She asked. Dr. Tanaka hesitated. Maybe. If we introduced Earth bacteria that has been modified to resist Tanaka 7. If we seeded the oceans with plankton. If we planted modified crops. In theory, we could kickstart an ecosystem. But it would take decades. Maybe centuries. And we would have to stay here the whole time. We would have to tend this world like a garden. The Galactic Union will never allow it, said Commander Chin, the ship's second officer. They have rules about contaminating sterile worlds. Vasquez smiled grimly. Then we will have to convince them. The representatives of the Galactic Union arrived 2 weeks later. Their ship was enormous compared to the human vessel. It carried ambassadors from 12 different species, all of them older than humanity. All of them more powerful. All of them convinced that they knew better. Ambassador Krell was a tall being with blue scales and cold eyes. He had dealt with humans before. He did not like them. They were too emotional. Too unpredictable. Too willing to break rules that had existed for thousands of years. This world is marked as sterile, he said. His voice echoed in the meeting chamber. Under Galactic Union law, sterile worlds cannot be colonized. They must be preserved as they are. Preserved for what? Captain Vasquez asked. Preserved for who? There is no one here. There has never been anyone here. This planet has been empty for 4 billion years. That is irrelevant. The law is clear. The law is wrong. Silence fell over the chamber. The alien ambassadors looked at each other. No species challenged Galactic Union law. Not directly. Not like this. Ambassador Thrall spoke next. He was an ancient being, his skin wrinkled and gray. You do not understand, human. Sterile worlds are sacred. They represent the natural order. They are proof that life is not universal. That existence is special. If you contaminate this world, you destroy its meaning. Vasquez stood up. She was small compared to most of the aliens in the room. But she did not feel small. She felt like she was speaking for every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of finding a new home. With respect, Ambassador, I think you are the ones who do not understand. Humans do not believe that empty places should stay empty. We do not believe that beautiful worlds should remain lifeless. When we see potential, we act on it. When we see a garden waiting to be planted, we plant it. Even if it means breaking our laws? Even then. Because your laws protect nothing. They preserve nothing. They simply ensure that this planet stays dead forever. And we cannot accept that. Ambassador Krell stood up. His scales shifted color to a deeper blue. A sign of anger among his species. Then you leave us no choice. The Galactic Union will not support this colonization. We will not provide resources. We will not offer protection. If you stay on this world, you stay alone. Vasquez nodded slowly. We understand. And we accept those terms. The aliens left the meeting confused and frustrated. They had expected the humans to back down. They always expected the humans to back down. But humans never did. The first year was the hardest. The colony ship New Dawn arrived with 5,000 volunteers. Scientists, farmers, engineers, teachers, doctors. People who had left everything behind for a chance to build something new. They built habitats near the river delta. They constructed laboratories and greenhouses. They worked 18-hour days trying to modify Earth organisms to survive in the hostile soil. Dr. Webb led the biological team. He spent months engineering bacteria that could resist Tanaka 7. He tested thousands of variations. Most died within hours of being introduced to the soil. A few survived for days. None survived for weeks. We are missing something, he told Vasquez one night. They were sitting outside the main habitat, looking up at unfamiliar stars. The compound is not just killing the bacteria. It is preventing them from establishing. They cannot bond with the soil. They cannot create the networks they need to survive. What do we need? I do not know. Something to bridge the gap. Something to help our organisms connect with this world. Vasquez looked down at the crystal grass beneath her feet. She thought about what Ambassador Thrall had said. That sterile worlds represented the natural order. That life was not universal. But humans did not believe in the natural order. Humans believed in changing things. In making things better. In refusing to accept that anything was impossible. Keep trying, she said. We did not come this far to give up. Dr. Webb nodded. But in his eyes she could see doubt. They had been working for a year. They had made no real progress. The planet remained as dead as the day they arrived. Perhaps, he thought, some worlds were simply meant to be empty. He was wrong. Becoming the gardeners. 3 years had passed since the first colonists arrived on Kepler 7749c. 3 years of failure. 3 years of watching their modified organisms die in the sterile soil. 3 years of sending reports back to Earth that always said the same thing. No progress. The colony had grown to 12,000 people. New ships arrived every few months, bringing more volunteers and supplies. But morale was falling. Some colonists had started to believe that the alien ambassadors were right. That this world was cursed. That it would never accept life. Captain Vasquez stood in the main greenhouse and looked at the rows of empty planters. They had tried everything. Modified bacteria. Engineered fungi. Synthetic soil additives. Nothing worked. The Tanaka 7 compound destroyed everything they introduced. Captain? A young woman approached her. She was small with dark skin and bright eyes. Her name was Amara Okonkwo, and she had arrived on the last transport ship. She was 23 years old. A botanist fresh from the university on Mars. What is it, Dr. Okonkwo? I have a theory. It is probably foolish. But I wanted to share it with you before I shared it with Dr. Webb. Vasquez raised an eyebrow. Why me first? Because Dr. Webb will say no immediately. He will say it is too dangerous. Too extreme. But you are the captain. You have the authority to override him. I see. And what is this dangerous, extreme theory? Amara took a deep breath. The problem is not our organisms. The problem is the interface. Our bacteria cannot connect to this soil because there is nothing to mediate between them. They are strangers trying to shake hands across a wall of glass. We know this. We have been trying to build that bridge for 3 years. Yes. But we have been trying to build it from nothing. We have been trying to create something new. What if the bridge already exists? What if it has been here the whole time? Vasquez frowned. Explain. Human beings carry billions of microorganisms inside us. Our gut bacteria. Our skin bacteria. The organisms that live in our mouths and our lungs and our blood. These are not random passengers. They are part of us. They have evolved with us for millions of years. They know how to connect with foreign environments because they have been doing it since our ancestors crawled out of the ocean. Amara's eyes were shining now. She was speaking faster, caught up in her own idea. What if we do not need to engineer new organisms? What if we need to donate our own? What if the bridge between Earth life and this planet is us? Our bodies. Our microbiomes. Our living connection to the world we came from. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. You were talking about direct contact. Physical integration with the soil. Yes. Colonists would need to live in constant contact with the ground. Barefoot. Barehanded. Sleeping on the earth instead of in beds. Their bacteria would seep into the soil. Their sweat and skin cells would provide organic matter. Their very presence would begin to transform the environment. That sounds uncomfortable. It sounds insane. Dr. Webb will say we could introduce diseases. We could poison ourselves. We could die. Could we? Amara hesitated. Maybe. I do not know. But we are dying anyway. Slowly. Every day that nothing grows we lose a little more hope. At least this would be doing something. At least this would be trying. Vasquez looked at the young botanist. She saw the fire in her eyes. The desperate need to believe that humanity had not traveled across the stars just to fail. Write up your proposal, she said. I will call a meeting. The debate lasted for days. Dr. Webb argued against the plan with every scientific objection he could think of. The risks were too high. The science was too uncertain. They could not ask colonists to expose themselves to unknown dangers. But when Vasquez put the question to a vote among the colonists themselves, the result was overwhelming. 80% voted in favor of trying the integration protocol. We did not come here to live in bubbles, said one farmer, a man named Jorge who had left his family farm on Earth to chase an impossible dream. We came here to make this world ours. If that means getting dirt under our fingernails, then so be it. The alien observers watched through long-range sensors. They had been monitoring the human colony since its founding, waiting for the inevitable failure. Now they saw something that confused them deeply. Humans were removing their shoes. They were taking off their environmental suits. They were walking barefoot on the sterile ground, digging their fingers into the crystal soil, lying down on the bare earth to sleep. What are they doing? Ambassador Krell demanded. Have they gone mad? His science officer ran analysis on the images. They appear to be attempting biological integration. They are trying to introduce their own microbiomes directly into the planetary substrate. That is disgusting. That is unprecedented. The first month was hard. Many colonists developed rashes from the crystal soil. Some got infections that required medical treatment. A few gave up and returned to living in the habitats. But Amara Okonkwo did not give up. She spent every night sleeping on the ground near the river. She walked barefoot through the plains. She dug holes with her bare hands and sat in them for hours, letting her body heat warm the soil. Dr. Webb monitored her health closely. He watched her blood work, her bacterial counts, her immune responses. And slowly he began to see changes. "Your gut bacteria is adapting," he told her one morning. "It is producing compounds I have never seen before. Compounds that seem specifically designed to neutralize Tanaka 7. Amara smiled weakly. She was tired. She was always tired these days. But she was also happy. "The human body is smarter than we give it credit for," she said. "It knows how to survive. It knows how to connect. We just had to give it the chance." Word spread through the colony. Other colonists redoubled their efforts. Families started spending entire days outside, living in direct contact with the earth. Children played in the crystal grass, their small bodies introducing billions of microorganisms with every tumble and roll. And then, on the 94th day of the integration protocol, something miraculous happened. A single blade of actual grass pushed through the soil near the river. It was small. It was fragile. It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever seen. Amara knelt beside it and wept. 20 years passed. The colony on Kepler 7749c, now called New Garden, had grown to 3 million people. The once sterile plains were covered in actual grass. Trees grew along the rivers. Fish swam in the lakes, descendants of embryos brought from Earth and raised in modified hatcheries. Birds sang in the mornings. Insects buzzed in the afternoons. The soil, once poisoned by Tanaka 7, was now rich with bacteria and fungi and countless microscopic organisms. All of them descended from the microbiomes of the original colonists. Captain Elena Vasquez, now Governor Vasquez, stood on a hill overlooking the capital city. She was old now. Her hair was white. Her face was lined with wrinkles. But her eyes were still sharp, still full of fire. Dr. Amara Okonkwo stood beside her. She was in her 40s now, the most famous biologist in human space. Her integration protocol had changed everything. Other colonies were using it to terraform marginal worlds. Even some alien species had started to study her methods. "They are coming," Amara said, pointing toward the sky. Vasquez looked up. A massive ship was descending through the clouds. An alien ship. The first alien ship to visit New Garden since the Galactic Union had abandoned them 20 years ago. "I know," Vasquez said. "I received their message this morning." The ship landed in a field outside the city. Ambassador Krell emerged, looking much older than he had 2 decades ago. His scales had faded to a pale blue. His movements were slow and careful. He walked toward Vasquez and stopped a few meters away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I did not believe it," Krell finally said. "When I received the reports, I thought they must be errors. Fabrications. But I had to see for myself." He looked around at the green fields, the flowering trees, the clouds of butterflies drifting on the warm breeze. "You did it. You brought life to a dead world." Vasquez nodded. "We did." "How?" "Our scientists still do not understand. They say it should have been impossible." "It was impossible," Vasquez agreed. "But humans are not very good at accepting impossible things. We tend to ignore them and try anyway." Krell was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that Vasquez had never seen an alien do before. He bowed his head. "I came to apologize," he said. "We were wrong. We should have helped you. We should have believed in you. Instead, we abandoned you because we were afraid. Afraid that you would fail. Afraid that you would succeed. Afraid of what it would mean if humans could do things that the elder species could not." Vasquez reached out and put her hand on the old ambassador's shoulder. "There is nothing to forgive. We do not hold grudges. We are too busy building things to waste time on anger." Krell looked up at her. In his ancient eyes, she saw something she had never seen before. "Oh, there are other worlds," he said slowly. "Dead worlds. Worlds that our species have abandoned because we believed they could never support life. Worlds that have been waiting for billions of years." Vasquez smiled. "I thought you might say that. Will you help us? Will humanity help us bring life to those worlds?" Vasquez looked at Amara. The young botanist who had saved an entire planet with a crazy theory and the courage to try it. Amara smiled and nodded. "Yes," Vasquez said. "We will help. That is what humans do. We plant gardens in empty places. We bring life where there was none. We refuse to believe that anything is truly dead." She looked up at the sky, at the stars that were hidden by daylight but always present. "Show us your dead worlds," she said, "and we will make them bloom." Years later, historians would call it the Great Flowering. The century when humanity spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors or colonizers but as gardeners. They brought life to 100 dead worlds. They transformed wastelands into paradises. They proved that the universe was not a cold and empty place, but a garden waiting to be planted. And in every one of those gardens, deep in the soil, lived the descendants of those first colonists on New Garden. The bacteria and fungi and microscopic organisms that had once lived inside human bodies, now forming the foundation of entire ecosystems. Humanity had not just discovered new worlds. They had become the seeds from which new life grew. And the galaxy would never be the same.